intake habit. In other words, he likes to eat too much. And please notice that I said he likes to eat too much, because women really don't eat that much, right?
No. Right.
If you get yourself into exercise, if you get yourself into a diet, you don't have to take the pill anymore. Your pancreas will work fine, and you should be good. Now, for this individual to solve the real cause of the problem, it would take him to do some sacrifice. What is sacrifice? To choose something that we should over what we like. That's the message, one of the message of the cross. There are many messages, many symbols, but this is one of them. The message of sacrifice. To choose something that we should over what we like. An individual who is addicted to sweets, what does he like to do? Eat sweets. So he looks at ice cream, he gets dizzy, all he thinks of is the ice cream and eating the ice cream because he wants the sugar. Now, does he should eat ice cream? Yes or no?
No.
Does he want to eat the ice cream?
Yes.
So for us to solve our problems, we always have to go through sacrifice. To choose something that we should over what we like. Does he want ice cream?
Yes.
He should eat ice cream?
No.
So if he really wants to solve his problem, he needs to sacrifice. And my friends, if we're not willing to sacrifice ourselves, we are at the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong doctrine. Because life, Spiritism, it's all about growth. And there is no growth, there is no spiritual evolution without sacrifice. We get accustomed to the same level that we find ourselves in. We get accustomed to our habits, but they keep us stationary in our spiritual evolution. So in order for us to move from this step to the onward, to the forward step, it will require sacrifice. To choose something that we should over what we like. Most of the time, when we are facing our psychological challenges, we want to do what we want to do. Yet, it's not what we should. Now, Sigmund Freud, without even knowing none of this, he pointed some of the things that we do to run from reality. And before we get to the techniques that we have developed over time to run from reality, let's first try to understand what Sigmund Freud said about us. Are you with me? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good. Sigmund Freud said, in order to understand ourselves, the way we behave, our motives, he compared our psyche with an iceberg. What is an iceberg? An iceberg is a huge mountain that floats on the ocean. If I had to draw the ship Titanic in proportion to my drawing, this would be the ship Titanic. Obviously, if the bottom part of the iceberg didn't exist, the ship would hit the tip and would just push the piece of ice away. It will float away. But that's not what happened. When the ship hit the tip of the iceberg, because the iceberg has this whole part here that we don't see it, that it's submerged, the ship drowned. The ship broken in two parts and fell inside the ocean. So Sigmund Freud said that our psyche, the way we work intrapsychically, it's the same as an iceberg. He called this part here our consciousness. Consciousness. What is our consciousness? Our consciousness is what you are aware of. Right now you are aware that you're listening to my voice. Right now you're aware of the temperature of this room. You are aware of who's sitting next to you. It's our awareness, our consciousness. Now he named this part here subconsciousness. The prefix sub means under. Submarine. Marine, to swim. Sub, under. A machine that swims under the ocean. Am I going too fast?
No.
If there are any scientists in the room, if there are any NASA astronauts in the room, pardon my simple way of explaining things. When we talk, I like to get everybody's attention. I don't want to lose anyone. This is why I try to explain the most simple terms. So if you're a doctor, if you're a physicist, please pardon my explanation. Subconsciousness means what we are not aware. What we are not aware. Under this ocean here. If this was a real iceberg and you come with your boat, do you see this part here of the iceberg? No. You don't. What you see is only the top part. Now, this top part has no strength whatsoever. Because what gives strength to this top part is what we don't see. You follow me? Mm-hmm. What that means, from the psychiatric point of view, what we are aware about ourselves is controlled by what we are not aware. Let me repeat that. What we are aware about who we are is controlled by what we are not aware. This part here, it's actually what gives strength to this. So according to Freud, we know very little about ourselves in comparison to what we don't know. I'm going to give you a very small example of how this works according to Freud. How an information in the subconsciousness will control our consciousness. Let's say a group of kids, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, they're playing hide and seek. And one day as they're playing, one of them gets stuck inside the closet. Now, when he closes the closet and he can't get himself out, he starts screaming, he starts banging that door, he starts sweating, he's having a panic attack. Get me out of here, get me out of here. All the other kids are outside trying to lock the door and he can't. This is very traumatic. It's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. His parents will arrive at 7 o'clock. He's there for 4 hours knocking. He gets tired and he passed out. That's how afraid he feels. Mother comes in, opens the door, he hugs the mother, cries for a while, and he goes to sleep. Now, obviously, he would never want to play hide and seek anymore because of this traumatic experience. Yet, he's only 4 years old. As he gets older, one day he's 21, he goes to his job, and he needs to get into an elevator to go to the floor to meet the boss for the first time. This happened in a rural area, so he never used an elevator before. Once he gets to the elevator, suddenly he starts sweating. He's panicking. He wants to knock the door open. He doesn't know what's going on. He's so scared. He's so afraid. And he's supposed to get to floor 20. He stops on the second floor and he runs. He finds the stairs, and then he goes on. Suddenly, something that he doesn't know, it's affecting his consciousness. He drives a car. When he's going through a tunnel, he's panicking again. He's going nuts. He can't drive this car through a tunnel. He wishes he could find a bridge somewhere. So now, to get to his destination, he's driving 3 extra hours just to avoid the tunnel because he doesn't want to get inside this place because it makes him feel very, very uncomfortable. He wants to have a panic attack that is uncontrollable. So obviously, an information in his subconscious mind is controlling his consciousness. That traumatic event is shaping his consciousness. So what Freud used to argue, that all of our subconsciousness material is controlling our consciousness. People that you live with, your parents, your neighborhood, all these different influences shaped the way you see the world. You're not seeing the world the way it is. You're seeing the world through the eyes of these experiences that you had. How many parents have shaped their kids' perception of the world by the things they said when they're young? We all know that we are not born with hatred. Hatred is taught. So let's say I grow up with my parents. And my parents, they hate Puerto Ricans. And they keep telling me, Julio, never play with Puerto Ricans. Never play with Puerto Ricans. I'm 4-year-old. I have no idea why they're saying I can't play with Puerto Ricans. All I know is that I need to obey my parents. Otherwise, I'll get a beating. So I respect them, I obey them, and here I am. I never want to deal with Puerto Ricans. So then I'm 15 years old, I'm going to high school, I see a Puerto Rican student, immediately I don't want to associate myself with this guy. I feel that I hate him. But I never stop to ask, why do I hate this individual? Has he done anything against me? Have he harmed me before? I'm just going through these emotions that were taught to me. The subconsciousness is controlling my consciousness. Do you understand this concept so far? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
The yes was very weak now. Yes or no?
Yes.
The amount of material stored here, it's what controls here. Now, what do we have here in our subconsciousness? Freud used to say that we have id in our subconsciousness. What is id? It are drives that we have about the things that we want to do. Drives. Sexual drives, work drives, intellectual drives. These are drives that they are unconscious. We think that we know why we're doing certain things, but really we are unaware. And this goes directly with what Joanna of Angeles used to say. One of the most difficult things for us to do is to discover who we are. We might know our neighbors, we might know our friends, we might know our parents, but we purposely ignore who we are. Why? Because it's too painful to deal with ourselves. Freud also said that we have here unconsciously and part consciously what he called the super ego. What is the super ego? These are the things that we know is right. Things that we should do. The ideal perspective of the world and the ideal person who we need to be. He called that the super ego. We know parts of it and we don't know parts of it. And then he named this line here, the ocean, the ego. What is the ego? The ego is how we present ourselves to the world. The ego is our way of putting our mask in order for people to accept us the way we present ourselves. Most of the time, the problems that we have, it's because we wear the mask of ego and we completely ignore of who we are. Ego gives us lots of headaches. For example, when we started out, going out with someone, girlfriend and boyfriend, the first stages, the first meeting, the first date, usually we don't show ourselves truly how we are. We put a mask of ego. We present to them how we want them to see us. So the man will be the perfect individual. He will bring flowers, open the door of the car, pull the seat before she eats, before she sits down for them to eat. And the conversation will be just harmonious and perfect. She will say beautiful things about what he expects that a perfect woman is. Each one has their mask of ego on. And this mask is just a mask. And nobody can act, nobody can be an actor and actress for so long. About 2 years, if they get married, that mask starts falling apart. Is the heat that is created from the living together under the same roof. The friction of the relationship. Every day, there are differences rubbing against one another, and suddenly the mask falls out, and he would ask, "Why are you this way?" She would say, "I don't know. You changed so much." If they seek a psychotherapist, she will complain, "No, I don't know what happened to this guy. He used to be this way, and now he changed so much." He would say the same thing. "I don't know what happened to her. She was one way, and now she's completely different." Chances are, they were the way they are right now, always. But falling in love makes us become blind. We don't see reality the way it is. And that verb is perfect to describe what's going on. Falling in love. When we fall in love, we're falling out of ourselves. We really don't know what we're doing. In Portuguese, we say we are apaixonado. We have a passion. And that passion, I love etymology, the part of grammar that teaches the origin of the words. Passion has the same etymological root of the word pathos, of pathology. To fall in love, to be apaixonado, it's actually to be sick. We are out of reality here.
Makes sense.
This is not a lecture about matrimony, but it's just to describe what the ego is doing, the many functions of the ego. The ego, according to Freud, in order to deal with reality, has created over the millennia defense mechanisms. In other words, ways of escaping the reality. Because the reality is too cruel to deal with. And what this has to do with people committing suicide, because their pain is so unbearable that they don't want to experience it anymore. If there's a common cause to all people who commit suicide, is that they're trying to flee the pain that they're feeling, physical or psychological, in order to avoid the pain from facing this. You understand me so far?
Yes.
So let's remain on the same subject so you can understand the concept of creating defense mechanism to escape reality. Let's say a couple, they're having problems. Why are they having problems? Because the man is constantly watching what she's doing. If she never gets home on time, he's always thinking that she's up to something. He's controlling her. And now with the iPhones and the droids, you put this app, Find Your Mate. It's not find someone to go out with. This is people that you're already married with. Find Your Mate, you press this button and gives you a specific geographical location. of the other phone. So you call her at 5:47. Listen, it says here on my phone that at 5:47, you were at this location here, 270 degrees north and 270 Where were you? You're supposed to be at, people just going nuts in order to control their partner. So if this man seeks a psychotherapist or a friend that tells him the reality of what's going on, the friend would say, you know what? The reason why you're suffering so much is because you are a controlling man. Your control comes from you trying to tell your wife everything that she has to do to obey your needs. In other words, you are a jealous individual. That's what you are. You're very jealous. And then, dealing with jealousy, it's very painful. He don't want to face the fact that he's a jealous man. So ego will create a defense mechanism to deal with this reality, to escape from the reality that he's a jealous man. So immediately, one of the ego's defense mechanism is rationalization. He would say, no, I'm not a jealous individual. I am a protective husband. If I don't protect my wife, who in the world will protect her? Now, being protective sounds beautiful, doesn't it? You're fulfilling an obligation as a husband. Now, being jealous is definitely negative. But then, when jealousy goes from the unconsciousness to consciousness, it will go through the ego here. The ego will filter the reality and say, no, I'm not a jealous individual. I am a protective husband. That's the defense of rationalization. Making a bad excuse a good one. To rationalize. Freud noticed that in general, people try to escape from their reality because dealing with the reality is still painful. So we change the message of our consciousness to something that we can bear with as the function of the ego. Manipulate things. Now, if he says he is a protective individual, he is distorting the diagnosis. Remember, diagnosis, prognosis, treatment. If he places the cause of the problem as being protective, for him there is no problem in being protective. He's changing the diagnosis so he doesn't have to deal with the treatment. Because there is no treatment for being protective. That's a positive thing. That's a good thing. Now, if he has the courage, the strength, because that's what we need for these kind of things. If he has the courage and the strength to admit to himself, you know what, the doctor is right, my friend is right, it's what I have, it's jealousy, now I need to go for treatment of jealousy. And treatment of jealousy is very hard. Why? Because someone who is jealous, the more attached they are, when it comes to detachment, the more difficult the detachment is. And that's one of the most fundamental, positive healing factors that Spiritism provides. Why we should detach ourselves from things. When we read the Spirit's book, you will not find there that it's wrong to be poor. But why is it that it's very dangerous to be rich? It's very dangerous because by being rich, we are more exposed to material things, and hence we could become very attached to them. Now, we cannot be attached to material things forever because we need to face a fact called death. And when that comes, if I'm too attached to my material things, when it comes for detachment, I die. Am I going to leave my house that I love so much? No. Am I going to leave my car? No, because I'm so attached to them. What about a person being too attached to that individual? That's not healthy either, because there will be a point in which I have to detach myself, and that could be death, or the person simply doesn't want me anymore. So to practice detachment is to care for, yet having this knowledge that it's not mine. People don't belong to us. People are with us. It's very different. When I believe that my partner belongs to me, I create all sorts of expectations. I want her to obey to my commands, to attend to my needs, and we cannot tell people what to do with their lives. We can tell them, but they have no obligation to attend to our commands. To practice detachment, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm very attached to my phone. Being attached to my phone is to care about this phone, is to love this phone, is to sleep with this phone, is to take a shower with this phone, is to believe that my source of happiness is having this phone. What will be the attachment? Throwing the phone away? No. That's not the attachment. That's abuse of the phone. So how can I practice detachment and at the same time loving? I will take care of the phone, I'll clean the phone, I'll maintain the battery charged, yet if I happen to drop this phone, it's not going to bother me. If I lose the phone, okay, it's just the phone. I'll work, I'll get another one, but this is not the source of my happiness. Some people are so attached to their car, for example, that when their car is gone, they go with the car. Because their entire happiness has the source of having that machine. A transportation machine from point A to point B. But for a lot of people, their cars is not a transportation machine. It's a symbol of their social status. It's who they are as an individual to show off to society their wealth buying power. You know, you look at these commercials, it's so funny. The Escalades and the big trucks. Where do you usually see the trucks in these commercials? Pay attention the next time. You usually see them on a mountain. You see these big trucks on a mountain. For one thing, if you buy that car, you're going to go to that mountain. No, you're not going anywhere with that car. Especially if you are a spiritist, find an excuse not to go to the Spiritist Center when you should. It's raining, I got 1 inch of snow, I'm not going to go. But the reason why we bought the car is to use for the snow. Where do we usually have these trucks on these commercials? On the top of the mountain. Why? Because we associate the mountain in being on top of the world. When I get this car, I will feel on top of everybody. So you see someone on the red light, and you look at them and they do this to you. Because that car is who they are. They don't have the car have them. And if something happens with that car, they go out of their mind. If something happens with the means to get the car, the job, they go out of their mind. They commit suicide because they cannot keep up with their social status. They're more worried about representing who they are than being who they are. They have become it. So does that mean we cannot have cars or big trucks? No, that's not the message. It's detachment. That's what Spiritism teaches. I can have the car, take care of the car, but if something happens with the car, it doesn't bother me. I am not putting the source of my happiness in a piece of material that I cannot guarantee. Everything is fleeting, including people. So when it comes to my wife or my husband, yes, I am with them, but they don't belong to me. Our kids, they are with us, but they don't belong to us. They come through us, but they're not our property. Phonetically, it's easier to say, my husband, my wife, my kids, but they don't belong to us. We are with them, but they are not our property. So when I had this understanding, this comprehension, that people don't belong to me, I would try to exercise detachment. We live our lives as if it have a contract with old age. People live their lives as if there is a contract in their pocket that says you're going to die when you are 92 years old. There is only one condition for us to get out of this machine, to die. That condition is to be inside the machine. Right now we're all inside the machine. And we could go tomorrow. Those people having fun at the restaurants, watching the concert in Paris, they didn't know they would die that night. It happened in an instant. Because death doesn't have a contract with old age. So this is why Joanna Evangelist, she asked us to once in a while practice seeing someone that you love inside the coffin. Can you imagine this? Picture your wife or your husband inside the coffin. You are attending the funeral. Visualize this in your mind. Visualize your kid inside the coffin. Once in a while, practice this. Because nothing guarantees that we're going to go first. Because when you see the reasons that some people commit suicide, it's because they cannot deal with the pain of a departed love. Someone dies so special and they lose their purpose. They say to themselves, there is no reason for me to continue to exist. Because the reason why I existed was because of this other individual. The book Heaven and Hell, one of the most untouched book in the Spiritist movement. This book tells beautiful examples of people who committed suicide. And there is the example of this couple who one of them died and the other one killed himself because he couldn't stand being by himself without his loved one. In the spiritual world, they were both spiritually, physically next to one another. Yet, because they died of different circumstances, they were at different vibrational levels, so they couldn't see one another. So the reason why he committed suicide was to be next to the woman that he loved. Yet, because he left, he escaped his challenge by committing suicide, he wasn't able to see the person that he loved. He actually prolonged his pain instead of shortening one. When we read the common consequences of people who committed suicide in the Spirit's book, they vary so much. But the Spirits, they make it very clear. One common cause is the pain they're trying to run from, it will be there. And now it's intensified because they realized they were supposed not to run away from their challenges. So these people couldn't see each other. To practice detachment. Now, does that require sacrifice? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, that yes was so deep. Isn't it difficult?
Yes.
Imagine we could go to the doctor and get a pill for jealousy. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If an individual is feeling depressed, the doctor, the psychiatrist will ask him 3 basic questions. How is your appetite? How is your sleep? How is your mood? I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I have a terrible mood. Here we go. You could have Prozac, Lexapro, Zoloft. And then you go in the following month and you keep complaining, he will just keep increasing. Because for the psychiatrist, what's going on, our neurons are cells that talk to one another. This is not a scientific lecture, but let me explain scientifically what goes on. We are inside an organism. An organism is made up of organs. Your heart, your kidney, your pancreas. What is the largest organ you have in your body?
Your skin.
Oh, you're so smart. Your skin. When you're doing something bad to your health, by the time it gets to your skin, it means the insides are bad. If you eat very healthy, by the time you have an excellent skin, your insides are doing very good. The organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. Our brain is made up of cells. Our entire nervous systems are made up of cells called neurons. And the reason we talk, we see, we walk, it's because neurons are talking to one another by sending to one another chemicals called neurotransmitters. The function of the neurotransmitters is to send a message from one neuron to the other. A specific message, a specific movement has a combination of neurons working together in order for that function to be carried out. Neuroscientists call that a neuron network. So the psychiatrist is seeing our problem from the mechanical point of view. Your body is a machine, something is wrong with the machine. Just like diabetes. You have lots of sugar, it means you don't have enough insulin. Let's give you a pill so you could help you with your insulin. So the psychiatrist will say, well, you don't have enough of adrenaline. You don't have enough of serotonin. You don't have enough of dopamine. These are different chemicals, neurotransmitters, that according to psychiatrists, they are responsible for your mood. Too much or too less of one of these substances will alter the way you feel about yourself. Do you follow me so far? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So if you don't have enough, for example, of serotonin, the doctor will say, well, let's give you an antidepressant that will help you raise your levels of serotonin. And the individual doesn't change his mood, will go back with a new appointment for the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist will say, well, 10 milligrams are not working for you, let's increase it to 20 milligrams, to 30 milligrams. And this will keep adding here. Well, Prozac is not working by itself, so let's add Zoloft. Well, but doctor, right now I'm not sleeping, so he adds a tranquilizer called Trazodone, Seroquel. And the individual keep adding more chemicals and chemicals and chemicals. Yet, the cause of the problem persists. What's the cause of the problem?
Jealousy.
Everyone?
Jealousy.
He cannot control his jealousy. His wife is not telling him. It's not obeying him. He feels disturbed by this. Of course he feels awful. He could take all the psychiatric medication in the world. That if he continues having this, nothing will change. So psychiatrists, they come from the point of view that our body, our brain creates the emotion. In reality, it's just the opposite. We, with our thoughts, create the emotions, and then we create the body that we have. Let's say right now, I will decide to get mad. Let's decide. I want everyone right now to make a mad expression on their face. Right now, everyone. Boy, you're so bad. I want to see a mad expression. Go ahead. I'm so mad. Go ahead. Let me see something that made you mad last week. Your mother-in-law showed up without notice. Let's remember that moment. We are choosing to remember this moment, and now we are producing the emotions of getting mad. We made a choice. Have a thought. What that thought is? Remembering something bad that happened. The unnoticed appearance of our mother-in-law. And now we create the emotion. We feel awful. We feel angry. What is this woman doing here at this time? It's 9 o'clock, for God's sakes. Go home. I'm experiencing these negative emotions. The emotions did not create my thought. The thought created the emotions. Now, if someone comes here to measure adrenaline, this is the substance that controls the flight or fight. Should I punch my mother-in-law or should I go to my bedroom? That's the flight or fight. Am I getting too physical here? One day someone told me, Julio, just because you work in the jail, just be careful. Not all your audience are inmates, you know? You're always talking like people are prisoners. Calm down. Adrenaline is the chemical that tells us to flight or fight. You attack or you run away. She comes in, I'll punch her because I don't want to. I'll scream at her, get out of here, please respect our privacy. Or should I go to my room, pretend that she's not there and go to sleep? Fight or flight. Get this?
Yeah.
So if we get our blood drawing out, they will see. If they test my nervous system, they will see an increase of adrenaline. Now, is it adrenaline that created my emotions? No. My thoughts created the adrenaline. So this is why it's very childish for the scientific world to see our brain from a mechanic point of view, to believe that we have depression and these other psychiatric conditions that disturbs and eventually lead people to suicide based simply on the mechanics of the brain. It's the other way around. The mind creates the thoughts. The mind creates the thoughts. The thoughts create the amount of chemicals we hear, the neurotransmitters. And then an action of sequences will follow after that. So if you're experiencing jealousy, he does not want to face this. He wants to escape from this reality because this is too much for him to confront with. He needs to practice the attachment, and that's difficult for him to bear. So he would try to escape by creating this defense mechanism of rationalization. I'm protecting my wife. I'm not a jealous individual. Do you follow me so far?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Now that we are here at this neuron transmitter, just let me show something very interesting. This is the head of the cell. This is called the axon, and these are called dendrites. The more dendrites we have, the better communication between one neuron or the other. There's a whole section of psychiatry called Neuro Plasticity. The word comes from the combination of neurons together with plastic. Why we call plastic plastic? Because plastic is moldable. We could shape plastic into any form. Once it's hot, we could shape plastic. So plastic means moldable, changeable. So neuroplasticity means the neurons are moldable, are changed constantly. So when someone tells themselves, oh, I'm very bad with names. Oh, I can't remember people's faces. Oh, I am terrible with directions. When they are making those affirmations, what they're doing, they are erasing the quantity of dendrites in their brain. But when we tell ourselves, no, I'm good with names. I have an excellent memory to remember directions. I'm excellent with people's faces. When I tell myself these things, I am increasing the amount of dendrites for better communication. So what we say to ourselves, we become. Can I hear there again?
Whatever we say to ourselves, we become.
What,
We become.
what we say to ourselves will become.
What we say to ourselves, we will become.
Can we say as if we are awake?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
What we say to ourselves, we become.
It seems that we hear in church and we're repeating things without understanding. What we say to ourselves will become.
What we say to ourselves, we will become.
Louder.
What we say to ourselves, we will become.
I still get church feeling. Upbeat. What we say to ourselves will become.
What we say to ourselves, we become.
Better. I'm terrible. I'm bad with names. I have a poor memory. Our brain will attend to that. The neurons will shape to attend to our mental command. No, I'm smart. I'm capable. Yes, I can. I am changing these neurons. In the Gospel according to his Spiritism, we have chapter 19. The faith is able to remove mountains. The last section of the chapter is divine faith and faith in ourselves. Divine faith and human faith. What does that mean? We need to believe in ourselves. We need to tell ourselves that we are capable, that we can. Because if we doubt ourselves, how in the world are we going to overcome any of our challenges? It's impossible.
What book did you say? I'm sorry.
The Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 19. The last section, divine faith and human faith. We need to believe in ourselves. So all this neuro plasticity that new psychiatrists are teaching us, it's very, very old. We find it in the Spirit's book. So please repeat to yourself, yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I'm capable.
Yes, I'm capable.
Yes, I'm smart.
Yes, I'm smart.
Yes, we are very smart. Some people say, no, I am not smart. I'm not intelligent. Yes, we are intelligent. What's the definition of intelligence? Our ability to learn new information. That's what intelligence is. We are not wise people. To be wise, to have wisdom, is to apply our knowledge to bring our happiness. Usually, people apply their knowledge to bring their misery. It takes a lot of intelligence to do this thing, what he's doing here. He's changing the information, yet the information is not bringing his happiness, it's bringing misery to him. Yes, we are intelligent. Say, yes, I'm smart.
Yes,
I'm smart. Yes, I can. The next time you face a problem, the next time you face a challenge, what's going to happen? Some people, they look at challenges and they immediately give up just by looking at the challenges. Have you tried to done certain things with people, and even before you start, they say, oh, it's impossible, we're not going to do it. Well, these are the problems that we're going to have. And they make a whole list of problems. They don't even begin. Do you find these people out there? These people are terrible. When we tell ourselves, yes, I can, yes, I'm capable, yes, I'm smart, the next time I face a challenge, I'm not going to simply quit on the first problem that I have. By telling myself, yes, I can, I'm going to persist. Let me take this step by step. I'm giving myself confidence that I will at least start. And then we will remember the great minds in history who acquired something big, who achieved something great by doing small things every day. And these people did not conquer over time, overnight. It took them considerable amount of work in order for them to get right. But they believed in themselves. They believed in their ideas. The guy who invented chlorine, for example. Do you think chlorine is good? Do you think chlorine is important in our lives? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Chlorine actually changed how we lived our life. What is chlorine? Chlorine is the stuff that we put on water to kill germs. That's what chlorine is, without getting too scientific about it. The guy who created, who invented, who discovered the effects of chlorine in water is someone from Jersey City, here in New Jersey. This guy believed in his idea. He made tests after tests. And then once he proved that chlorine could get water clean, do you think that the government opened their doors and said, welcome your idea, we applaud you, here's the trophy? Yes or no?
No.
No! You're wrong! You're crazy! He persisted, not for a month, not for 2 months, not for a year, not for 5 years, 10 years! And these people keep rejecting and rejecting him. And that's how we grow. If you get a blow, don't give up. You persist in your idea. Believe in yourself. And after 10 years, you know what he did? He went to the reservoir in Jersey City and he dumped the chlorine overnight without no one seeing it. They found out that he dumped all this chlorine in the reservoir and they wanted to kill him. They sent police after him, but they noticed the water got all clean. Then he became a superstar. Now, pools were able to be created, invented. Go into a park and have water. You know the water parks that we have? 100 years ago we didn't have them because it wasn't possible due to chlorine. And then once we didn't have the water because of drought, the pools were empty. And you know what they did? Kids start rolling inside them. Board skating was invented after that. We could drink the water from our house thinking that we're not going to die. This is one man not giving up on his idea, persisting, overcoming. Because you see, when you talk to people about their problems, I've tried. No. To try is to do it without giving up. We always acquire something great by not giving up, by doing small things constantly, and by believing in ourselves. And here comes modern science telling us about Neuro Plasticity. It's just a scientific term to do things that we know. It's all as the planet itself, to believe in ourselves. Any problems, any challenges that we face, we must believe that we are capable of. When we read the Spirit's book, no one was born for failure. No one was born to be miserable. We were all born to succeed. Your guardian angel, while you're planning your reincarnation with you, did not plan for your failure. He planned for your success, for you to be great at what you do. But that requires exercise, effort. It has a price. Happiness does not fall from the sky. I wish it was like that. I wish people could come to the Spiritist Center and we just give them peace. You know, here it is, peace. It's not something that you give. It's a consequence of what you do. It doesn't matter what others are doing. It matters what you do because that will come back to you. And that's the product of peace or the lack of, which is unhappiness. So Freud said, in order to deal with all these problems, we created so many mechanisms, defense mechanisms. One of them, he said, is denial. What is denial? Denial is to pretend the problem is not there. No, I am not jealous. And that's not who I am. I'm not telling myself I'm a protective individual. I'm just denying that I am. No, I'm not jealous. You got the wrong picture of me. You know, I let her have one friend. What do you mean I'm jealous? She has her friend, her unique friend. It's a state of denial. Third, repression. According to Freud, we escape reality through another mechanism entitled repression. Repression is to push things downward in our consciousness so we believe they don't exist anymore. And repression, it is just like a spring. The more downward force that you push on it, the more upward force exerts on your head, like a spring. By repressing the problem, by starting the problem down here, we are not solving anything. because that problem will come back later, even stronger. What about the devil on this planet? You know the devil? I know the devil. It's called credit cards. That plastic thing. Once again, neuroscientists, they love to do experiments to understand how the brain works. So they did this excellent experiment. There's a part of our brain that heats up, that flashes up when we're doing something that we feel it. It's associated with the sense of responsibility. So they did these two experiments. They had one person buying a product with credit cards. So when they swiped the devil, nothing was felt. The part of their brain did not lit up. It remained completely flat. No expression of neural activity in that part of the brain. But a second experiment, buying it, the same thing with money, immediately the part of their brain that has to do with the sense of responsibility lit up. What does that mean for us? It means when you buy something with a credit card, you don't feel that you're spending. When you buy with money, you feel the pain of spending the money. And credit card companies, they know about this. This is why they imprison us in the most vulnerable moments in our lives. The late stages of our teenager years. You're going to college, you have debts, but you want to dress up. Image is the most important thing. So, Discover card. Are we online here? Discover card will send a card full of credit to someone who doesn't even have a job. And it's 25%. And later, he will accumulate debts over debts. And once he's 30 years old, together with student loan, he has like $40,000 in debt. If he gets a gift from someone and he actually calls the company and says, listen, I want to pay out my debit card. I want to pay out my entire credit card debt. The companies will actually get mad with him. Why are you doing this? You just pay the minimum. It's better for you. You don't feel it. Paying the minimum, it means that the product that you bought for $100 will eventually cost you $250. It's paying the minimum. So if I have a credit card debt, repressing the debt, is it going to solve the problem? No. The debt will actually get bigger with interest rates. And the next month, instead of owing $250, now it's going to be $280. Interest upon interest. More problems are the same. The more we try to repress them, the stronger they get. Why? Because this is the God within us trying to help us to get rid of this problem. If the problem doesn't bother us, we're not going to look at it. We're not going to pay attention. But it will still control us. Problems, symptoms are excellent things. Imagine if a diabetic person did not have any symptoms. How would he discover that he has diabetes to begin with to solve the problem? We don't like problems. We don't like symptoms. But symptoms are the messenger telling there's something wrong. What's the problem with most kind of cancers? No symptoms. By the time the person goes for a yearly checkup, boom, you have this super cancer inside you, the tumor is huge, is inoperable, you're going to die. Because it's symptomless. Why do we go to the bathroom and the women check their breast and men check their male parts to detect any nodes? Because these nodes are they are asymptomatic, no symptoms. You don't feel anything about it. So problems, symptoms are good. If we're feeling depressed, angry, sad, unhappy, these are symptoms telling something is wrong. Something is down here that is causing you all this harm. Let's work on it. and not create escape. Let's deal with it. But we became experts, second to Freud, in creating defense mechanisms not to deal with the problems. Another mechanism that Freud established was projection. What is projection? It's to project our imperfection on other people. An imperfection that we have, we say other people have it. So the jealous individual here, he would say, no, I'm not jealous. My wife is the one who is jealous of me. Now, if this husband, he's a cheater, he has other women, he will constantly be on the lookout for all small movements that his wife is doing. He doubts his wife. Why? Because he knows he's a cheater. So he projects this image onto everybody. He believes that everybody is a cheater because that's what he is. He is not seeing the world the way it is. He's seeing the world through his own lenses. We all have a particularly set of eyeglasses that we see the world with. We don't see the world how it is. We see the world through our eyes that were constructed by our experiences, our collective unconsciousness, as Hume used to place it in. A very good way to find out who we are is to see ourselves through the eyes of other people. See yourself through the eyes of other people. You stop and you ask the question, how does my mother-in-law sees me? See yourself through the eyes of your mother-in-law. How does my co-workers see me? Well, my co-workers, they see me as this pretentious, robust, proudful, arrogant individual. This is how they see me. Boy, I think I have to work on these issues. How does my ex-boyfriend sees me? See myself through the eyes of other people. Then we have introjection. If pro means we are sending the image out there, in means we're bringing the image inside. We are living someone else's experience. We are introjecting their psyche, their way of being. And this is very common when it comes to having models. There's a lot of teenagers out there that are introjecting Justin Bieber's style. They are not being who they are. They're trying to be a new Justin Bieber. You guys know who Justin Bieber is?
Yes.
Am I pronouncing correctly? Is it?
Yes.
Justin Bieber?
Yes.
Then if a woman sees a supermodel, she stops being herself to introject the model's image. A very famous model comes out and she colors her hair red. On the following day, you see all the women color their hair red as well. They're introjecting the image of someone else. And why this is not healthy? Because the more we attempt to be someone else, the less we are who we're supposed to be. You are a unique, special individual. God did not make a mistake when it created you. So if we introject the image of someone else, we are stopping to be who we are. And when it comes to relationships, this is so dangerous. A husband and wife, when they create these expectations of one another, the man might say to his wife, you know, I always wanted a wife that sings. Now, his wife cannot sing whatsoever. She's an engineer, not a singer. And what kind of singing do you want? What kind of singing do you like? Well, Celine Dion, you know. I think she's beautiful, she sings so well. So this woman will now search for Celine Dion's latest style, latest dress, latest hair color, and suddenly she's painting the color of Celine Dion. She's dressing like Celine Dion, she's talking about how Celine Dion addresses herself, and suddenly she starts to be less of who she is and more of Celine Dion just to please her husband. But in the process of pleasing her husband, she is not being who she is. She, by helping her husband try to love her, she's going to start hating herself. And you cannot love other people by hating who you are. You cannot love other people by hating who you are. We first love ourselves, and then we love other people. If I hate myself, I will project my hatred onto other people. So as you can see, these defense mechanisms, they have very negative impacts on our behavior. And as a result, we are not dealing with reality. We are just creating problems on top of problems. My time is running out. There is much to say because there are many defense mechanisms. But let's try to wrap it up, everything here, by coming back to Freud. In Spiritism, we learn that more than chemical imbalances, people commit suicide because they become dissatisfied with their lives. In the Spirit's book, 4th part, we have the chapter that talks about suicide, and there's a question. Why people become disgusted with life? And one of the answers is satiety. What is satiety? Satiety is to have everything. And everything becomes so easy, there is nothing to work for. And you become bored. And the boredom, people want to escape it with addictions. Alcohol, cigarettes, they feel an existential void, and eventually, when their pain becomes so intense, they want to escape, and the epitome of feeling depression is suicide. Second reason why people commit suicide, lack of faith. What is faith? It's the certainty of tomorrow. That's what faith is. I am certain that my tomorrow will be better than today. If I am certain that my tomorrow will be better than today, whatever struggle I'm going through today, it will become solvable. It will become, I will be able to overcome the challenge. If I believe that my tomorrow will be worse than today, whatever problem I'm facing right now, it becomes unbearable. And then I want to run away from the pain by escaping life through suicide. By understanding Freud, superego, which is the God within us, to do what is right, I will be able to overcome the challenges of satiety, of lack of faith, by understanding there's something better inside me. That the challenges I'm facing, they are there to help me, not to break me. The challenges are there to serve as a stepping stone for my progress. Because we all are under the law of evolution. Even if we ignore this law, love or pain will make us evolve, will push us forward. My comprehension of this law will help me understand that whenever a challenge presents itself, there is always a reward afterwards. There's a story about this man who was traveling and found a rock in the middle of the road. He complained about the king, he complained about the administrators, he complained about the king, the queen, and he continued his path. Another man came by and he did the same thing. Who in the world placed this rock in the middle of the road? Here we are paying high taxes, and no one's keeping up the road safe. This government's terrible. Then a peasant came by. He looked at the rock, and then he put the baggage that he was carrying on the side of the road, and with all the effort, he pushed the rock out of the road. And when he came back to get his baggage, he noticed the same place that he removed the rock from, there was a letter there. When he opened up the letter, there were a couple of $1,000 inside the letter. And the king said, I purposely placed this rock on the middle of the road to see who is taking care of this kingdom. Go ahead and enjoy this small amount of gratitude. That man received a benefit from an apparent struggle, removing the rock of our problems. In the Bible, we have a special passage when Jesus come to see Lazarus, and both of his sisters were crying because they thought Lazarus was dead. When we look at the Bible, it says resurrection of Lazarus. In Spiritism, we understand that Jesus did not come to break the biological laws. He was not dead, but he was in a state of sleep, profound sleep. So when Jesus looked at the two sisters crying, and he noticed with his power that Lazarus was asleep, he went towards the tomb. And before he went towards the tomb, he told the people around, remove the rock. He went inside the tomb and he woke up Lazarus. And everyone became astonished because they thought Lazarus was dead. When we hear, when we listen, when we read Jesus' message, there are so many symbols that we can learn from. Which means, on this particular example, that before we are awakened, before we bring ourselves to life, we need to remove the rock of our problems first. He could have easily have done, but it's our job to remove the rock of the problems. Because if we just sit and wait for the solution, it's not going to happen. We need to do our part. God help those who help themselves. So when it comes to depression, we must help ourselves in order to receive the help. I must do something in order to help myself, in order to get the help. And according to the highly evolved spirits, the best thing that we can do to avoid depression, to avoid suicide, is work. What's the best thing that we can do to avoid our depression and avoid suicide? Work. Work. If we sit down with a highly evolved spirit, can I get a prescription for my problems? They will write work. That's it. Some people will say, if I have a minute with Mahatma Gandhi, what would Mahatma Gandhi say to me? Imagine sitting down in a dinner with Mahatma Gandhi. What would he say to me? Oh, he would say, the message to you, it's my life. Look at my life, and then you get the message. What has Gandhi done? Work, work, work. Serve, serve, serve. Sitting down with Martin Luther King Jr., what he would say to me? Look at the message of my life. And that will be my message to you. What is it that he did? Work, work, work. Serve, serve, serve. And at last, sacrifice. Sacrifice. To do something that we should over what we like. If we sit down with Jesus, what he would say to us? Work, work, work. My Father has always worked, and I work too. Some people say, but I have 2 jobs. I work all the time. How come I'm still feeling this way? There are 2 kinds of work. One that feeds the body, and one that feeds the soul. Material work is to provide material food. We work to have a shelter, a house, and money to buy our food. That's material work. Volunteer work to serve other people, that feeds the soul. Reading a book, that feeds the soul. Helping someone else, it feeds the soul. If we don't physically work, we don't get any money. If we're not getting any money, we're not eating. What's going to happen? Eventually we get very weak, and an opportunistic disease will kill us. So we die because of lack of nourishment. When it comes to spiritual work, if we're not doing any work, if we're not bettering ourselves, if we're not helping others, we have a lack of spiritual nourishment. We get very sick, and then we die. We don't die in the sense of leaving the body. We die to life. We become hopeless. We become depressed, bitter. And then we just want to escape. This is why the solution to all of our problems is always work. Intellectual work to feed our minds. Love to help others. Because in the process of diminishing someone else's pain, our pain will be diminished. When you try to help someone, you will see someone who have a greater problem than yours. And automatically, that will be a consoling to your problem. Because bigger problems, they console little problems. You try to help someone in need, suddenly you said, oh my God, my own problems are not that big. Look what this person is facing. This is why I ask you to come to the Long Island Spiritist Center weekly with discipline. To have discipline is not to stare at people in a very angry way. That's not discipline. To be quiet and not say a word, that's not discipline. People confuse discipline with have a very angry look. I'm a disciplined individual. You have a psychological disturbance, but you're not serious. When we read the Spirit's book introduction, Spiritism needs to be studied with discipline. Discipline is not to look angry and not making noise. Discipline is no matter what happens. My day is Monday, I'm there on time. If I told myself I'm going to read this book, I'm going to finish this book no matter what. That's discipline. If we're going to have an event and I say to people I'm going to be there, I am there. That's discipline. It's the management of time. Remember when Emmanuel appeared to Chico Xavier, for those of you that know the story? How can I serve Spiritism and mediumship with Jesus? And he said you need 3 techniques, 3 lessons. Discipline. And Chico Xavier asked again, what more? Discipline. What more? Discipline. Emmanuel, his spiritual guide, said 3 times that he needed discipline. What is discipline? The well use of time, the management of time. In the book, In the Domains of Mediumship, in the Greater World, Workers of Greater World, we read an introduction. We can see, we can pinpoint the elevation of the spirit according to how he uses or she uses the time. The more low evolved the spirit is, the more waste of time. The more highly evolved the spirit is, the more intellectual, good, healthy use of time he or she does. So for your own spiritual ascension, for our own happiness, come attend this meeting. Like the guy who created chlorine. Don't expect things to change in one day, 1 week, 1 month. Persistence needs to be there. Don't give up. Continue. Seriously. This is the most important thing that you do. Because everything else will fall into place. This is Jesus' words. If you reach the kingdom of heaven, everything else will fall into place. Reaching for the kingdom of heaven is to work on ourselves to better who we are as individuals. Nothing in life comes easy. And by looking at Freud's perspective, we will be able to use the last defense mechanism, which he considered the only one to be helpful, which is sublimation. Sublimation. What is sublimation? To transform something negative into positive. Let's say a teenager, he likes to set things on fire. How can he sublimate that instinct of setting things into fire? He can become a fireman. Or he can become a pyrotechnical technician. Those are the guys who create fireworks. He's sublimating. Sometimes you see kids who like to play with animals and insects and they're spreading their wings. Some people will be quick to judge and say, oh my God, this child will become a killer because he's killing insects. According to Freud, not necessarily. He might sublimate that feeling and become a doctor, a surgeon. So through the eyes of Spiritism, all the imperfections that we have, jealousy, greed, pride, envy, laziness, we will sublimate them in order for them to work on our behalf. And by always helping others in the process of helping them overcome their own negative instincts, we will be helped constantly. We will achieve peace because the happiness that we distribute comes back to us. The good that we do to others come back right to our hands. The law of action and reaction, cause and effect. Do good because the good that you do is better for you. And people will help you from the spiritual world. A lot of people used to come to Chico Xavier to get their problem solved. And one of Chico Xavier's counseling was, go ahead and visit an inmate. Visit a prisoner. People didn't understand why Chico Xavier would say something like this. So the people went to visit the prisoners without knowing why. But what they didn't know is that the mother of the inmates who was in the spiritual world became a friend to that person and started praying for the person who was lessening the pain of her own child. Clear example, when you help someone, you are getting the help back to you. So to finish it up, in the Midwest, in the US, there is a competition of corn. Which farm gives the best corn around? And for many years, they always found the same guy winning. So they came to him for an interview and said, listen, you already got 10 prizes. You have to let us know, how come your corn is so good? And he said, well, because in the beginning of the season, I get the best corns that I have from the previous years, and I distribute to the farmers around me. So what do you mean? You give your best corn to the other farmers? Yes, that's exactly what I do. Why? Well, that's because of pollination. When my corns start growing up, I know the wind from their corns will come to my farm. If I give them bad corns, bad corn seeds will come to my field. This is why by giving them the best, I get the best. Do the same and peace will be yours. Thank you.